Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
All right, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee. I hope you're having a great day and a great week, and certainly I hope things are going well in this mid-month, right? Mid-month of April. Well, make it a great day, and we're going to continue the conversation with the great business leaders that we have from across Metro Detroit and beyond. And by the way, my name is Mark S. Lee, and I'm your host for The Conference Room. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and providing a level of support, and your comments are awesome. Thank you all very much. All right, now we're going to continue the conversation with the president and the CEO. I'm going to let him give you the new title because a big announcement took place over the last couple of days. His name is Mr. Rich Homberg, and he's been the president and CEO of Detroit Public Television. But Rich, we have some big news. What are you the president and CEO now of? What is it called?
I am fortunate enough to operate and lead Detroit PBS and our new brand and positioning, but also a major announcement this week about a new venue, building a new campus, a venue, an engagement center, the next generation of public media, housing, and just terrifically excited. Mark, as you well know, it's been a wonderfully crazy week as we simultaneously announced the new location, the heart of Detroit, a great location and a great piece of land that will build our new headquarters in, and but also the adapting in the new positioning.
So in case
it's gonna be hard because I've been saying DPTV for 16 years, so now you got to retrain yourself, right? You got to be loyal to the brand. You got to get that right, or Julie will give us trouble.
But for those of you tuning in for the very first time, you may have missed the news, big news just announced this week, where Detroit Public TV is rebranding itself, now has a new name, Detroit PBS, and the location is moving with the organization will be moving from suburban Detroit down into the city. And by the way, before we continue, full disclosure as well, I am on the board of DPTV now, Detroit PBS, on full disclosure as well. So Rich, let's talk about, let's unpack this conversation of this relocation or the move back into the city. Why now? You've been out of the city for several years. You decided to go back, but why now? Why do you feel the time? Why does the organization feel the time is right to make that move, as well as the board, back into the city?
Well, you reach a point in your growth where we started. I joined the organization 16 years ago. We had purchased a new building. Long story. We needed a new facility. We were going through the transition to HD. There was also an opportunity to build out our production business, and we thought that was a wonderful opportunity. And that simultaneously, for the better part of those 16 years, we have also operated WRCJ in Detroit and a bureau that's moved a couple of times, but a bureau. All of our content folks are housed today at the Marygrove Conservancy. And so moved into the building, embraced all that building could provide. But what we really discovered was that our future was going to be mapped out by a truly deep and engaged relationship with Detroit, what we sometimes call the engagement engine. So you've got to be able to produce great content, but everything in public media starts with understanding the community, with partnering with the community. You know better than I do, Mark, that this is a face-to-face town. And I tell our staff all the time, next week somebody's going to ask you a tough question. I want you to feel comfortable saying our senior leadership will be here in your office next week. The engagement engine that we built. And the whole idea is public media was built to serve the unmet need. You've got some really solid commercial television stations today. You have one locally owned nonprofit public television station that effectively is owned by the people of Detroit. It's a community licensed station. And so how do we serve? It starts with understanding Detroit. Rule number one in Detroit is, do you understand me? Do you see me? Do you understand my community's history? Do you understand my issues, my needs? So we got very, very invested in that. And what we discovered was we had a great building, but you could argue it was just 15 miles in the wrong direction. So we looked and looked, we did a lot of planning, got our financial house in order, build out our 5 pillars: kids, culture, leadership, energy, environment, and health, which you as a board member have heard a lot about. But we built that out, and it just became obvious that to extend the work, to double down on the work, we needed to be in the heart of TMI-CIA, the most important city in America.
Why do you say Detroit is the most important city in America? You kind of coined that phrase, and again, so why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Well,
What's your
if you want
perspective
to,
on
I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and
it?
I was on Independence Mall on July 4th, 1976, for Fife and Drum Course and celebrating the bicentennial. At the same time, we're headed towards America's 250th. If you want to understand this country over the last 125 years, if you want to understand the 20th century, if you want to understand where we are today, there is no city in America that is more emblematic of the opportunities, the challenges, the spirit. It's not that it's all perfect. It's just you want to understand it instantly. You think about when you think about Detroit, what do you think about? You think about the Great Migration, how people got here. You think about how Detroit developed over the years, the challenges in Detroit, the fight around diversity, racial tension. We live in literally one of the most diverse cities in America that is simultaneously one of the most segregated. How do we deal with that? You want to understand the future of energy and environment? Is there a better city on the planet to think about transportation, future cars, fresh water? I think we got a little. And so if you look at education, if you look at civics, if you look at arts and culture, what city? Nobody ever went to Cleveland to record an album. I mean, who's kidding who, right?
Right.
What city has a stronger voice than Detroit? And so this kind of started, we have a lot of fun. We have a great relationship with PBS, but no matter what the issue is at PBS, whatever they announce, I'm like, we're going to need more. Why? TMI-CIA. So when Henry Louis Gates starts to travel and we can bring 1,800 people together for an evening of gospel music at the Fellowship Chapel, that says a lot about this town.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Detroit is such a powerful city. The legendary status of it, it's a microcosm of the challenges of America as well. And I love your analogies and the examples there. And speaking of Detroit, moving, you got to talk about this location. You're moving. We know the automotive heritage of Detroit, obviously.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm a native, and some of my family members, we have a very strong affiliation with my family with the Big Three. But talk about the move and where now Detroit, see, I almost did it. Detroit PBS is moving to in the city. Where's it going? Talk about the historical significance and the location.
Well, it's been an amazing journey. We knew we needed a new headquarters, and we dug deeply into it. We benchmarked against other stations across the country. Went to Austin, went to Denver, Seattle. We looked at the best operations. We also looked at our needs, and we knew we wanted a different kind of facility. We had 93,000 square feet in Wixom. Today we'll have 50,000 square feet on 234 Paquette. But importantly, we'll go from 2 big studios, that's sort of old school TV, to a building that is plumbed for video in every room, but it will legitimately have 7 different video locations. A studio theater with 300 seats, a performance space that's indoor and outdoor, 3 different education rooms, space for WRCJ. And so we knew we thought a lot about what would be ideal. We also know Detroiters, right? And Detroiters like a short drive and easy access. And so we had looked at a whole bunch of places, and we were pretty close to one when we had a call from an individual who says, I have one more place for you to look at. And our CFO drove up to 234 Paquette in Milwaukee Junction. And she's like, oh my God, like literally on the phone going, I think I found the spot. Wow. We call it a campus rather than a building because it is a full block of land in Milwaukee Junction, 2 blocks from Woodward, 120 parking spots. Think about moms and kids coming to an education event, a parenting event at the station, to be able to easily park and get in that building into a very, very well-equipped building is critical. And so it's kind of stunning. And for you obviously help people understand how to develop their businesses.
Yeah.
You think you've done every single thing, and then one more thing changes everything. And so
Yeah.
what's happened is the staff has really embraced it, and you could just, the excitement in that neighborhood. A major automotive supplier just moved in. You're obviously seeing a lot from Henry Ford at MSU around all they're developing, and it was just the ironic thing. And again, for folks who are running their businesses, it's that moment when you go, "Oh my God, that changes everything," and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think, in that part of the Detroit, that part of the city, I should say, the historical significance is almost based on reverence. I mean,
Yeah.
what I mean by that, we know about we know the history of the automotive industry. And I believe that the building that you're moving into, that Detroit PBS is moving into, has a very strong historical
Yep.
significance
Yep.
and tied to the automotive
Yep.
industry as well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
was that let me ask you, was that a plant previously, or do you know,
It was
what was
it was an engineering facility for General Motors. It was not that far from their original headquarters, and they needed more space, and they built out this engineering facility. The result is it's got nice high ceilings, great
yeah,
place for a studio, and there's a heritage to it. It's a 100-year-old building, and it has that grit, it has that real, it has that genuine quality. Across the street is the Ford Piquet museum, and that the neighborhood has just gone tremendously. But it's also, you got 75, you got the
yeah,
Lodge, you got 94, you got Woodward. It's really an ideal location. And in our presentation on the building, we're 23 minutes from Livonia, and you're in your seat. That's
yeah.
so how do we get, what if public television stations were more accessible than ever? And what if they had a building that was emblematic of that? So that's our goal. Our hope is you come to we've all had that deal where you've gone to a place and you said, never going back there. Our
Yep.
hope is that as people discover the building, they're like, we could do this and this and this. How about that? And how we become a community center. And that's what
That's awesome. And you talk about programming, and I love what you said in terms of the accessibility to the expressways and the other areas, the suburban areas of metropolitan Detroit across the entire region. And my guess is this allows you also to really engage the city residents and young people to come into this educational center and offer them program that might be a little bit more challenging in your current location,
yes.
as it relates to engaging new
Yep.
programming and in educational areas as well.
Yep, absolutely. And particularly thinking about families. And then you got a couple of kids with you. You're going to a children's educational event. You need something that's real easy,
Yeah.
accessible. And so how we make the building as accessible as possible.
So obviously people want to know in terms of timing, from a timing standpoint, what is the current state of the move, not the move, but the
Mhm.
construction? When
Yep.
is the expected completion date for people to begin moving in?
Yep. Our hope would be, and we've got milestones. We're very careful about money. Our great CFO,
Mhm.
Alec Boyd. We're very careful and try to be very smart about the use of funds, of philanthropic capacity. This is a $30 million project. The land has already been acquired for about $10 million. That's done. We're in good shape there. We have a milestone to get to a certain financial point, and then we'll break ground. Hopefully, think January. 18 months of construction, little grace period. Hopefully, the fall of 26, we are in the new building, and no pressure. Just I got to go find the money.
Yeah, go find
Our
them.
team's done a great job. It's great because they're like, well, Rich, the plan is done, and we know exactly what we want to do. Go find the money. So that's my job for the next 2 years.
Well, and as we were talking though before we had this conversation, I asked you a question. I'll ask it again. What has been the response? It was just announced, obviously, this week. What has been the response from stakeholders, from the general public in terms of this major announcement? Personally, I think, as you know, this is awesome.
Right.
This is Detroit, and Detroit's the anchor city, again, a legendary city. But
Mhm.
what's been the overall response from people once the news broke about this move?
Right. Wonderful, and positive. I think it's look at our town. Detroit is headed in such a great direction. There are definitely still issues that not undeniable. At the same time, and we're going to see a lot with the upcoming draft. this realization of the progress we've made. I'm going to see an individual this morning who helped, so it was part of the, 28 years ago, helping to reposition Detroit. Think about Mayor Archer establishing Campus Martius and the hub and all that was built there. If you challenge the viewers here, stand in front of the Detroit Opera House and look out at all that is there. There's Ford Field, there's Comerica, there's all the new venues that have been built. That area 28 years ago, they called it Foxtown because there was so little going on there. And you think about what's been built there and the impact of the growth of the city and, the commitment of the citizens, great leadership. And so, the response from folks has been wonderful, appreciative, but also let's get this done. What are you going to do next, Rich? Detroiters, they're going to change it. We're never done. Yeah. And so exciting and very, very positive.
And also as part of as we begin to wrap up, as part of the rebranding efforts, you have a new website as well, and some other things that you're doing. Talk about the other assets, I guess you will, for lack of a better phrase, that are also being rebranded.
Yep.
Well, and by the way, before I forget, a new tagline as well.
Yes, imagine the possibilities. The thing I would say to your community, and they know this, but I'd say you always think you're going to change everything really quickly. It takes a decade to build an organization. It takes a decade to get the culture right, to get the brand right. It takes a long time to be ready to rebrand. It's not just changing your name. It's the research that goes into that. It's the orientation. It's embracing your strategic plan. It's embracing your values. And the brand says everything, and you can change your name, but do you change the organization? Do you bring it it all together? And so what's been just wonderful to see is the development inside of the building. The brand change really pays off on all the work of over a decade, and it's incredible staff. And so, yes, it's you can say we're rebranding or we're going to a new brand, but it's all the back work. Where's your strategic plan? Where's your operations plan? Where's your funding headed? What's your business like? Where do you sit competitively? And then when you rebrand, and now the trick for us, we're going to have one name. It's Detroit PBS. And then you have to get really disciplined about living up to that and being consistent about that, and having the entire building, the entire organization, that obviously your community and your customers understand the importance of that brand.
Well, Rich Homberg, I want to congratulate you and your team for making this awesome decision of going back into the city and rebranding the organization as well. It's a legendary business, a legendary station as well. Congratulations again to you and your team for the thoughtfulness, the planning, everything that you've done to date. And I know, speaking, I'm going to step outside of this role for a second.
Got to talk about the small business workshop. We got to talk about.
I am going to do that. I'm going to do that. But briefly, as I step outside this role and as a Detroiter, you've heard me say this in past meetings. I think this is just awesome. It's the right thing to do. And I'm very proud to be part of an organization that has a commitment. And we're certainly making a commitment to the city as well. And now, before we go, I'll give you just what Rich is referencing is that we're hosting our 10th annual Small Business Workshop, May 15th, right around the corner. And Detroit PBS is a partner, is a sponsor of the event. And you've been with us since day one, Rich. Why is this Small Business Workshop? Why is the Small Business Workshop in general important to the organization, to PBS?
Well, you're obviously very good at your job, and you built a workshop, and you came to me early on. There's great trust, and thinking about your community, building trust with partners is key. And so I've known you for a long time, and you approached and said, "Are you guys interested in being part of a small business workshop? I run it. If you could promote it, we can brand your organization. We could help each other." And it's just been a great. We finish each other's sentences about 3 or 4 times a year. You're calling me or I'm calling you. Hey, I need you in a meeting, right? And so these partnerships are very important. And what's good, I knew when you started a workshop, it was going to work, and it would grow over the years, and that's exactly what's happened. And so, how do we help build small business? Well, it helps to have the lead group at the table, and hopefully we're there amplifying your great work.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me say this is our 10th year. We have great speakers. This year's theme is embracing change while moving forward. And the ever popular fireside chat is back. And I'll be having a fireside chat with former Detroit Lion Herman Moore. And also, if you're coming, we want you to come. We're going to have a panelist, and the president of Fifth Third Bank will be there, and other key business leaders from across the city will be engaged in this year's workshop. And we have, by the way, have had over 1,000 attendees over the years. So this has truly become a mainstay, and it's partners like Detroit PBS, which have helped make this successful. And by the way, before I forget too, Detroit PBS will be there on site to film parts of the workshop. So they will have content that they can use at their leisure, at the appropriate time on their various properties as well. Rich Homberg, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
And by the way, before we do one more time, if you want to register for the workshop, go to leegroupinnovation.com. That's leegroupinnovation.com, and just click on the Small Business Workshop tab. It takes 2 seconds, and you'll be good. You'll be there. Rich Homberg, thanks again. Have a great day. Congratulations, and continue the great work.
See you soon. Thanks.
For all of you tuning in, thank you all for tuning in to this week's In the Conference with Mark S. Lee. I want you to go out and make it a great day, make it a great week, and we will check you out next time with more business leaders from across Detroit and beyond.
The Lee Group will be holding its 10th annual Small Business Workshop, May 15th, 8:30 a.m. at the Corner Ballpark, 1680 Michigan Avenue in Detroit. Hear from business leaders and other entrepreneurs discussing embracing change while moving forward. You don't want to miss this free event. For more information, go to leegroupinnovation.com and check Small Business Workshop.